Hello and welcome to another Experts in AI video. I'm Ben Wodecki and I'm here at ATxSG here in Singapore. And I'm pleased to be joined by United Nations AI and Data Policy Governance expert and founder and executive director of the AI Impact Alliance, Valentine Goddard. Valentine, thanks for joining us. How's it going?
Thank you. I'm doing great. Thank you. How about you?
Yeah, not bad. It's very long. We're not quite London anymore, but there we go. It's the other side of the world. So we're, as I said, we're here in Singapore, and it's a very and you're here as part of the Canadian AI Advisory Council. What brings you to this side of the globe?
I'm extremely proud and excited to be here to talk about the Canadian AI ecosystem, our innovation ecosystem, learn about Singapore's AI sector, and share some of the exciting projects that are going on in Canada, as well as talk about the ethical deployment of AI in society and AI's social impact.
So Singapore has been a hub for innovation probably for the last 30, 40 years, and Canadian AI is among the best in the world, right? It's ranked extremely highly by a lot of different organizations. What kinds of opportunities do you personally see here for Canadian AI?
What excites me the most between the synergies between Singapore and Canada are the creative, innovative, and human-centric approaches to AI. Indeed, Canada has ranked first in the Global AI Index for government strategy, and I believe Singapore is really high up there as well. We align as well in terms of how we want to use AI in terms of public services, finance, and health, amongst other fields of applications. So I find that extremely interesting, as well as how Singapore engages and keeps the citizen in the loop in terms of AI deployment into society.
So here at ATxSG, there's a lot of really innovative startups. There's a whole wall just dedicated to them. And in terms of the AI startups in Canada, I had a little look online and some of the stuff we've covered on AI business. Poly AI with their election work, really, really fascinating stuff, makes for some really good reading. But I also came across people like BenchSci, Mila, and Tenstoran as well as ones that we're personally kind of in the loop on. But what I want to know, and what I think our audience wants to know as well, is what are those AI Canadian startups that are really exciting you right now?
Okay, I had a lot of fun preparing that question. So let me start maybe with Mila. Mila is actually one of the leading AI research labs in the world. There's over 350 researchers, and it keeps on growing and attracting more international talent in AI. The scientific director and founder of Mila is Professor Yoshua Bengio, who is one of the 4 pioneers of deep learning, which is the future of AI. And now, if you allow me to please look at my list, because I prepared a short selection of some of my favorite startups in Canada. Some of them are well-established businesses at this point. Some of them are smaller innovation startups. So let me go ahead. So I'm going to start with Plotly. Creates open source data visualization and app building libraries for machine learning, data science, and engineering. It's been downloaded over 100 million times already. Strategy AI. Build, train, manage preset machine learning models using the most current AI developments. Fun note, it's been used by cricket fans to predict outcomes. I personally also had the opportunity to use it in an AI for social good project with Indigenous organization. We were aiming to train online hate detection algorithm to be used on social media. And we wanted to perfect the algorithm to better understand what racism looks like against Indigenous populations. So this platform was extremely useful to us because we had a general data scientist who understands AI, but not every company has access to an experienced data scientist. So the platform is really easy enough to use to be able to improve your AI model and use the latest techniques. Now, BrainBox AI makes building smarter, greener, and more efficient. In 2022, I think that's a priority. Aquantix and CanForest. There are 2 different companies, Aquantix and CanForest. They use AI to improve the efficiency of the use of water. Whale Seeker. Whale Seeker uses computer vision to prevent collision with whales. In the age where we're seeing increased maritime transport activity, this is extremely important to protect biodiversity. Expert C modernizes every step of the agriculture supply chain. So speaking of food security, which is going to be an increasing priority moving ahead in the next many years, I think it's extremely important, as well as, this one is in French, so please bear with me, drone des champs, or cerveau. Their sub-project means field drones, and their sub-project being called BRAIN, uses AI to increase agricultural production while making it more sustainable. One of their projects uses AI to increase vertical agricultural production in harsh climate conditions. If Canadians in our northern Canada can grow strawberries in the winter with AI, anybody can grow their strawberries. Then there's Nectar Buzz, one more, because we want honey, right, on those strawberries. Okay, so we use AI in precision technology for beekeepers, keeps the bees happier and increasing revenues for the beekeepers. Imagia brings precision oncology to increase and accelerate the detection of cancer. My Intelligent Machines, different company, uses AI, and systems biology to provide biopharma companies with easy to implement and interactive systems, allowing for accurate biological simulations at an early drug development stage. Now, everybody knows me for working in the creative and art sector and cultural sector, so I absolutely must name at least one startup that uses AI to create immersive narrative experiences, and that's called Prologue AI. And I invite, of course, everyone to stay tuned to the dates that we'll be announcing for AI on a Social Mission, which is the conference that I founded and is run once a year, and where we showcase uses of AI for sustainable development goals.
Well, I was expecting a creative one, and so I'm glad it was on there. But we've really covered a lot of AI for good, a lot of really interesting use cases in there. And AI for good right now is massive, right, in terms of industry coverage and actual acknowledgement and the importance of it. But to have AI for good, you've got to have the right regulatory frameworks. Now, as the governance expert, but of the two of us, I want to ask you in terms of what the kind of policy view in Canada is right now for AI. You know, what kind of recommendations would you like to see implemented?
I think I noted five priorities. So there's the global alignment between the economic, social, environmental, and cultural dimensions of AI and data-driven economies that must be strengthened. There were some policies, recommendations issued by the United Nations recently, really underscoring the misalignment or the lack of alignment between technological innovations and the social benefits that technology must bring. So we really need to make more regulatory policy funding efforts to move in that direction. 2, cybersecurity strategies must focus on resilient trust in institutions. Undermining sovereign governance weakens a general trust, which is absolutely necessary to enable complicated market interactions, community involvement, and trade and cooperation amongst states. 3, new mechanisms to facilitate that process, so to facilitate reaching that trust, reaching that consensus around the governance of, for example, natural resources in digital economies. That's absolutely important. 4, prioritize equal opportunity for women to participate in AI development and governance, and make sure that they can equally benefit in digital economies. I will talk about that a little bit more in my presentation later on, but right now there's 95% men in AI, 5% women on average. So that is a true urgent priority. 5, focus on measuring the impacts of AI on society, on society and the planet, and measuring that impact. Deploy, measure, deploy, measure, deploy, measure. So we need new ESG frameworks that are really adapted to AI and understanding its social impacts. 5 priorities.
5 priorities, but the thing that I've been watching a lot is how other jurisdictions are playing this out.
Yeah.
the one that's racing ahead, in my personal opinion, is the European Union. I nearly said the United Nations there, goodness me. Is the European Union. The AI Act, although it's about a year away, is really all-encompassing. But from your view, are you seeing anything that jurisdictions, that is going on in other jurisdictions that you feel could apply well in terms of Canadian AI?
I actually am pretty excited about the Data Governance Act that is proposed by the EU. It addresses two main concerns. One of them I was talking about earlier is, if there are no women in AI, how are we going to make sure that we eliminate bias? So bias is one of the major risks in the deployment of artificial intelligence in society. So what the Data Governance Act does is, first of all, it creates an obligation to measure the bias in the data and in the algorithmic models and algorithmic outputs that the companies or governments deploy. Two, it lifts some obligations and restrictions for altruistic uses of AI. So that's another way of really directing, steering the use of AI towards human rights, sustainable development goals. The next concern right now that regulations are addressing is psychological manipulation and online harm. And actually the UK has proposed legislation that's on the table right now, and there are different countries who are also working on online harm legislation, so to control that. And yeah, I think that's those are two that I find are pretty interesting.
That's amazing. Well, it's one definitely to keep your eye on in the coming weeks and months, because it's only going to get more and more interesting as the year progresses. But speaking of the year, we're here in Singapore right now. What can we expect for yourself and AI in Canada in general over the next 12 months, for example?
I think the next year is extremely exciting. Canada has reached a level of maturity. It's an innovation ecosystem and high level of expertise, top talent in tech. Toronto has hired the highest number, triple what Silicon Valley hired in terms of tech talent. So we're ready to take it on. And because of the operating environment that we're in, the social purpose orientation and other sources of funding in Canada that really facilitate that, I'm excited about just in general where our ecosystem is headed. And for myself, I'm really excited to share with you that AI Impact Alliance is launching a game this year. It's a serious game, and I know you like games.
Yes, we had a conversation about this prior to this, and I'm extremely excited that my two passions, AI and board games, are coming together. So I'm really excited by this.
Okay, I hope you like Regulation too.
Yes.
Because the game, this is a serious board game that allows the players to explore the social, ethical, political, legal, economic implications of AI. And through the mechanisms, so the rules of the game, players will have a chance to really understand, for example, data collection, preparation, data monetization practices. If you think of the game Monopoly, which was about land grabbing, this game maybe might be more about data monopoly. So what type of investment frameworks, are there learning frameworks that can facilitate the achievement of responsible and ethical AI? So it raises awareness and it strengthens the policy design environment, accelerates regulation on AI, and favors the finding of consensual spaces around that regulation. I wanted to just take this opportunity to invite experts around the world. There's already been support for this project. It's already in the move. It's in the motion. So experts in digital economy, political economy, who would like to participate in the co-design, will be holding workshops this fall at the AI and Social Mission Conference. So please get in touch with me. That's my exciting thing. And the game should be launched in 2023.
So hopefully this time next year we'll be sat here playing it.
Yes.
That'd be good. Valentine, until then, Thank you for your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.